All right, let's talk about Bitcoin now that we are getting a pretty significant bounce following the sweep of this range low. So in my last video, I pointed out some very key support levels below this point for if we continue lower, but what I didn't do is I didn't point out the decisive resistances above us, which we are running into one, probably I'd say the most important one right now. So for that, I brought up my old TA. All this is basically the TA for this range, starting from this high over here. And I do want to make sure these are still accurate, so let's take a fixed range of this again. And value area low is still the same, point of control is still the same, but value area high is a little different. This thing keeps moving on me, so we'll adjust that. But the value area high is still in this box of resistance up here. I think that is still a valid resistance zone, and no point in having that one on my screen anymore. So yeah, we are running into the value area low. That is a very decisive point. I think reclaiming this opens up the door to a rotation up to point of control and possibly a rotation fully of this range in terms of its volume, and maybe even a move up to the actual range high. Of course, we got some steps to get through before we can talk about this, but it does open the door to that possibility. This is a very decisive point. And I think rejecting from this area could cause a move back down to the value area high of the multi-cycle range. I went over this range, or this fixed range pull in my last video. So off the bat, that is kind of how I'm judging it. I'm going to be watching to see how price reacts to these levels. I'm not, being super impatient to get into a trade. I'll wait for an opportunity. If we end up just blasting straight up to all-time high, oh well. I mean, I didn't get a long opportunity. It is what it is. At some point, price always stalls out, begins ranging, and within those ranges are trade opportunities. And even with these very aggressive trends, typically there are retracements, so there are trade opportunities then as well. So yeah, I'm not being impatient here. I will wait for opportunities to take a trade. It may be a long, it may be a short. There may be a short opportunity coming from this key resistance. I don't know yet. We just got up here. I think it'll take some time to really figure out what price wants to do here. But yeah, these are pretty much my decision points. So now let's talk about this low. So we have closed this daily candle as an SFP. I recorded my last video on this day. I think it was just a few hours before that daily candle closed. We did close it as an SFP, so we still technically have not broken this range, and we have now reclaimed the range. We closed a lot of candles back above this low following that SFP, and we are now attempting to reclaim the value area of this range. So that will be, a very important next step. But, as of right now, we are still trading in this range. We have not broken down out of it. Even if we close some 4-hour, 3-hour, 2-hour candles down below here, the higher time frames, when they make sense, overrule the lower time frames. And I think a daily close definitely makes sense here. This is a massive range. We've been trading in it for a long time. These moves are very high time frame moves. So yeah, things are definitely looking a lot more bullish than they were when I made my last video. So now let's take a look at Market Cipher. When I looked at Market Cipher in my last video, it was not looking good. We didn't really see a whole lot of bottom signals on this low. On the 4-hour through the 1-hour, Market Cipher, momentum, and money flow were putting in lower lows. It wasn't really looking good for a strong bottom here, but there were, a few bits of hope sprinkled in there on some time frames. And, this daily is one of them. And I will start here. There hasn't really been any change on the weekly. Pretty much still looks the same as it did then, but the daily, there is a bit of an update here. We have a green dot on this daily time frame, and this green dot printed today. We have 44 minutes from when I'm recording until the daily candle closes. So in 44 minutes, if this green dot is still here, then we will have confirmed a daily momentum bull div. Now, the fact that it is not a divergence with money flow put in a lower low, makes me view this as a less strong divergence, and also the fact that we did not see divergences on the lower time frames also, gives me that same conclusion, but it is something to go along with the SFP of the range low. So on the 4-hour, we are seeing money flow start to turn to the upside a little bit. Momentum got a sharp move to the upside. Right now it's trying to get above the 60 line. We did see money flow put in a lower low following that actual low, so you could maybe make the case for some kind of a hidden bullish div here with money flow putting in lower lows, price putting in higher lows. But, I usually look at hidden divs for continuation rather than as a reversal sign. And, money flow hidden divs are kind of weird, so I don't know how much weight I'd put on that, but, you can look at it. And right now I would like to see money flow put in a higher high compared to this last lower high. We still have the potential to kind of reject from that same area that we did last time. 3-hour money flow is moving to the upside better than the 4-hour is. We see momentum putting in higher highs. The momentum has, pretty clearly gotten above the 60 line here. 2-hour money flow just crossed into the green. Same thing with momentum. We're seeing pretty good direction on both sides with momentum. We got a nice looking trigger wave here on the 2-hour. And the 1-hour is continuing to put in higher highs. We see momentum putting in higher highs above the 60 line. That's a pretty good sign of strength. Money flow aggressively putting in higher highs. This last push to the upside was very aggressive. And again, we still see that good direction with momentum. So potentially things are maybe turning around, even though they weren't looking great at this low. You don't always get great looking confirmations on every reversal point. In this case, maybe the momentum div on the daily was enough. But again, there is still, crucial resistance above us, very decisive resistance. We could just backtest the value area low before continuing lower. So now let's see if I can come up with some local ideas. First, let's take a fib retracement of this last move to the upside. I also want to check the volume of that push to the upside, so let's pull this from the low to the high, and these may change if we end up putting in a higher high here, but as of right now, the point of control of the uptrend is coming in right around that multi-cycle value area high. Let's check another thing. Let's pull an anchored VWAP from this low. And for fun, let's also pull one from this low right here. That one is a little bit higher than the other one. So I'm going to leave both of them up on the chart. And maybe if we do end up getting a retracement, they will crawl their way up to this area of confluence as well. I don't really love the fib confluence. There may be a 382 coming in around the value area high, and there is. So what happens if we don't, necessarily get a move down to this exact area? Maybe we end up front running it. I do like to consider front runs of very important levels like this, because sometimes that'll happen. There's probably a lot of people waiting for a retest of this exact area, given the point of control and this important value area high confluence if anyone has the exact same pull as me. But, at the very least, I think the point of control of the uptrend is pretty important. But we could end up front running it, so maybe you want to put a box up to that value area high, and maybe even a little bit higher, because I am noticing that there is an order block right here. So maybe you want to call that your zone of support, where if confirmations are presented in this area, I will probably look for a long trade. And I do think that long trades below this value area high, at least significantly below it, are a bit more risky. I mean, there is this daily open here that probably will become an untapped daily level upon this close, but let me check. Yeah, so we have a purple candle and then a blue candle. Once this closes, this area could be significant as well. So, I will mark that out. I will also mark out this other untapped daily level right here. And let me pull that to the body, because it looks like there's a very small wick on there. So, there are other levels of support below this point right here. I just think, rejecting from the value area low, if we do end up rejecting from here, and then losing the value area high of the larger range is not really a good look. But, we could always just basically wick down below it on a higher time frame, even if we're down here for a long time. On the lower time frames, it could just be like a 4-hour wick. We can reclaim it pretty quickly. So, I'm not really too worried about that. I think if there's a good enough setup with good enough confirmations at, any of these points, especially this one with the golden pocket confluence, as well as the potential to take out some liquidity from this low, I think that's not a bad idea, but, it really comes down to if there are confirmations there. So I think those are going to be my support zones. Are there going to be trades in this area? I don't know. We'll have to see what happens if and when price gets to move down to these areas. Are there going to be confirmations in any of these zones? I think I would look at this daily one as well. It's below the 0.5. This, anchored VWAP could be around that area, so we could wick out that anchored VWAP. So, I think this zone, this daily level, and this zone with the daily level in it are all areas of interest for me. And I think the only way I would short this right now is if we start ranging in this area. We get kind of like an extended range, and then some kind of short opportunities presented from that. Other than that, I'm not super interested in shorts at the moment, with price action looking how it's looking. Alright, well, I think I'm going to leave it there for this video. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment. All of that helps to support the channel, and I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next video.